Travis Henderson is the subject of this video. The protagonist, played by Harry Dean Stanton, of the 1984 film Paris, Texas. The film is a towering achievement of cinema, directed by Wim Wenders. And if you haven't seen it, please seek it out with my highest endorsement. The film begins with Travis wandering the Texas desert, dirty, thirsty, feral.
What the hell?
Near the end of the film, we will discover that 4 years ago, he physically and mentally abused and terrorized the mother of his child, who eventually ran away from him. You get the impression that he's been wandering the desert ever since, living with the guilt of what he has done and who he's become. Simply put, a bad man. There's a particular type of story that resonates with me, although I don't know if that's a good thing. It's the type of story where good men do bad things. I don't mean movies in the wrong man subgenre, like the ones Hitchcock specialized in, where a good man is accused of doing something bad. I mean films where men, and it's usually always men, who are normal, loving, moral people, find themselves in circumstances, sometimes ordinary and sometimes extraordinary, which have led them to some moral violation. I'm fascinated with characters like these. Will Money in Unforgiven, Antonio in Bicycle Thieves, Boromir in Lord of the Rings. All men who commit some sin, violate their code, and, most importantly, regret their actions. My experiences with humanity, not to sound like an alien, have shown me that people are deeply flawed. So these types of characters represent to me a sort of quintessential human being. People who do good and do bad. They hurt, they heal, they hate, they love. Some deserve redemption, others might be better off dead. All are fascinating characters. The audience has an interesting relationship with these types of characters, or even just these types of people. Society demands pleasantness, manners, morality. But I also know that each and every one of us harbors a darkness. But society demands that we hide our darkness, because if it's ever revealed, we may never be forgiven. Travis's self-imposed exile only comes to an end when his body fails him, and he can physically go on no longer. Travis is nursed back to health by a shady German country doctor who puts him in contact with his brother Walter, an ad man in Los Angeles who hasn't seen his brother in over 4 years.
A lot can happen to a man in 4 years, I guess.
When Travis first sees him, he's afraid or confused. It's difficult to tell exactly. Is he afraid of his brother? Or does he just have no idea who he is? It's at this point we begin to realize the true extent of the fracture in Travis's psyche.
What the hell happened to you anyway? You look like 40 miles of rough road.
Travis is now mute.
Something must have cut your tongue off.
It's as if during his years of solitude, he has forgotten how to speak.
Lost in a deep, vast country where nobody knew him. Somewhere without language.
Or perhaps he just doesn't know what to say. Travis doesn't want to go with his brother. He tries to leave, multiple times. But Walter keeps steering him back to California, back to his family, back to his son. Walter wants Travis to be reunited with his son. He never pretended that Travis wasn't his real father and doesn't hide Travis's existence from him. It's Anne, the woman without even a blood relation to Hunter, who feels most threatened by Travis's appearance in their life. Hunter is doing well with his aunt and uncle and refers to them as his mother and father. He's initially unsure of how to deal with Travis, whether or not he should treat him like a father.
Who is that guy? You know him? Yeah, he's my father's brother. No. They're both brothers. No, they're both fathers. No, I forget it.
But Walt is insistent that Hunter recognizes Travis as his father, much to the anger and sadness of Anne, who has no other children and loves Hunter dearly. Walt and Anne talk to Travis about what happened between him and Jane, why she felt like she couldn't be a mother to Hunter.
She stopped being a mother to him a long time before that.
You can still feel the anger and resentment Travis has for Jane, even as he tries to suppress those feelings. Remember, his 4 years wandering the desert was a time of numbness, of disconnection from the world, not necessarily a time for Travis to process his feelings. It's almost as if he's just now regaining consciousness after a long coma.
I just didn't realize how much rage I had.
He recognizes the wrong he has caused, and maybe that self-reflection means he's changed a little. But that doesn't mean that he's now ready to be a good husband or a father. Later, after Travis and Hunter have spent more time getting to know each other, Anne tells Travis that Hunter's mother, Jane, has recently started depositing money for Hunter in a bank in Houston. But otherwise, they've had no contact with her for the last year. Travis decides that he wants to go to Houston to find Jane, and Hunter asks to go with him. Travis agrees to bring him along, not asking for Walt or Anne's permission. Travis is either too cowardly or too childish to face talking to Walt or Anne, though not so cruel as to not notify them at all.
Why can't you do it?
I can't do it
Why?
because it has to be you.
Hunter, you tell Travis to turn around and come back here right now.
This is consistent with Travis's very simple, childlike personality. It explains his past rage and the other unusual decisions he makes throughout the film. Eventually, Travis finds Jane, working at a peep show in Houston. He's anonymous behind the dark glass, and Jane doesn't identify him by his voice. Travis clearly doesn't know what to say and is surprised to see her working there. Eventually, he becomes angry, questioning her about her job.
Oh, well, we're not allowed to see the customers out here.
Yeah, where do you see them then? Do you go home with them?
No, sir, we don't.
Yeah, but you can really see them if you want to, can't you? I mean, you can go home with them if you want to. All these places say that. I mean, how much extra money do you make? How much money do you make on the side?
More of that darkness that Travis still has. Watching this again, it suddenly occurred to me how young Jane actually is. The actor, Nastasia Kinski, was like 22 or 23. Jesus. That'd make her 13, 14, 15 when she had Hunter. Thankfully, it seems, in the film, she's playing a character a few years older. Travis says she was 17 or 18 when they first met, which is still not great, especially considering he's over 30 years her senior. Travis visits Jane again, but this time he's prepared. He tells her their story. How they fell in love, how he became obsessed, jealous, drunk, possessive, abusive. And then we, the audience, find out what happened on the last night they spent together. Travis is afraid she'll run away from him.
So he tied a cowbell to her ankle so he could hear at night if she tried to get out of bed.
She leaves anyway, and Travis forces her back and ties her to the stove with his belt.
He just left her there and went back to bed. I lay there listening to her scream.
He goes to sleep and dreams of running away.
And when he woke up, he was on fire. There were blue flames burning the sheets of his bed. He ran through the flames, but they were gone. Then he ran. He never looked back at the fire.
This is the beginning of his exile. Before this point in the film, the audience doesn't know what Travis has done or what trauma he's caused. The film takes full advantage of this fact, forcing us to sympathize with this broken man, to identify with his determination to mend what has been torn, and to witness him with his son and brother and sister-in-law and see the best side of him. He is gentle and kind and thoughtful. So when we do ultimately hear him admit to his sins, we are already primed to forgive him. If only all repentant sinners were given the same privilege. I imagine everyone who watches Paris, Texas feels deeply for Travis and what he's gone through, despite the fact that he committed truly evil acts in the past. But we forgive him, so why can't Travis get a happy ending? In reality, Travis's decision to return his son to his mother is morally questionable. Hunter's been through a lot prior to Travis's arrival. Having both of his biological parents abandon him must have taken a serious toll on his mental health. But he seems to be doing quite well with Walter and Anne, who've been raising him as their own. For Travis to, let's not kid ourselves, kidnap Hunter and take him to his mother, who may not even be emotionally or financially able to take care of him, is absolutely ludicrous. And the actions of an unwell man, desperate to fix something he's broken. Because it's not as if Jane didn't know where Hunter is. She's the one who decided to leave him with Walter and Anne. And it's not like they didn't know where she was, generally. They know she's been depositing money to a Houston bank every month. But when Travis is brought out of his exile and forced to reckon with the world he has wrought, he seems to think he must bring Hunter to his mother, that he is responsible for their separation, so he must be responsible for their reunion. As questionable as that thought process is, the film isn't interested in punishing Travis for it. Hunter is excited to be with his mother. It's literally his idea to go with Travis.
That's what I want to talk to you about. I gotta go away now.
Why?
Because I'm gonna find her.
What about me? Just found me. Can I come with?
Jane wants to see her son.
I wanted to see him so bad that I didn't even dare imagine him anymore.
Travis tells her that Hunter is waiting for her at a hotel room. Jane tells him,
I'll be there.
Jane had asked Anne to stop sending pictures of Hunter because it pained her so much to not be present for his development. Travis asks why she couldn't be there, and Jane says that she didn't have what she knew he needed.
I didn't want to use him to fill all my emptiness.
I wonder, now that she's decided to go to Hunter, what's changed? And then I remember, when she had Hunter, she was barely an adult. Now she's a fully grown woman, and maybe she feels prepared to take on that role. Despite the dubious thought process behind Travis's actions, we can plainly see that they were intended to heal. But is this just another selfish action from Travis to ease his own pain at the expense of others, namely his brothers and sister-in-laws? Maybe this is why he doesn't get his happy ending. Maybe this is why he wanders out back into the abyss. Is this a return to Exodus? And if so, can we interpret it as essentially a suicide? His task finished, therefore his life no longer has meaning? Why doesn't Travis get a happy ending? Is it because the director, Wim Wenders, doesn't think he deserves one? Or is it because he thinks the audience doesn't want one? Even if audiences sympathize with Travis, after we discover what he did to Jane, after kidnapping Hunter, I think the audience won't buy it if Travis returns to a healthy, pleasant life, like he had in his brief time staying with his brother in California. It doesn't jibe with people's sense of cosmic justice. But maybe I'm totally off base. Maybe Travis did get a happy ending. Travis gets something that many men who have done wrong in their past never attain. A chance to make up for his past, to one degree or another. Atone for his sins and shed the guilt that's been weighing him down for the last 4 years. I don't know what future lies ahead for Travis Henderson, but he took the opportunity to reassert his own agency, to take control of his own life, and that's a very valuable thing indeed. Before Travis goes to see Jane for the second time, he records a message for his son.
When I first saw you this time at Walt's, I was hoping for all kinds of things. I was hoping to show you that I was your father.
He tells Hunter what he can't say in person, and if everything goes well, what he may never have another chance to say at all. He mentions that the thing he wanted most can't happen. I assume he means a reunification of their family. He tells Hunter that he needs to bring him back to his mother because he's the one who tore them apart. He ends the recording by saying,
I love you, Hunter. I love you more than my life.
Travis feels like he cannot be in Hunter's life if it includes Jane also. And it must include Jane, so he must go. That is what is best for Hunter. Hence, I love you more than my life. I value your happiness over my own. When Jane comes to the hotel room where Hunter is staying, she doesn't seem surprised that Travis isn't there. Perhaps when she tells him, I'll be there, it was a warning to Travis that he shouldn't be. When Hunter sees his mother come into the hotel room for the first time, he immediately embraces her. No resentment, no judgment. The film frames this as a pure reunion. This is their happy ending. Travis seems to be watching from a nearby parking garage. Seeing their embrace, he gets in his truck and drives away from the city, tears in his eyes. I think there is significance to Travis driving away rather than running or walking. I don't think this should be interpreted as an act of suicide, nor even another self-imposed exile, or at least I hope not. Travis knows that if he were to stay with Jane and Hunter, he might slip into his old habits again. We know that rage still lives in his heart. The last 4 years of wandering the desert certainly hasn't cured him of his darkness, but it also hasn't removed his goodness. I like to imagine that Jane and Hunter will have a good future together, one that includes Walt and Anne, and that one day, Travis will find the tools to conquer his anger and quell his darkness and live a happy life in a plain house on a good plot of land in a town called Paris, Texas.